You don't know
The
what you're
slap
talking about.
echoed
You
through the
weren't there.
cafe.
I was there.
Loud
I
enough to
was in
freeze
Vietnam.
every fork midair,
Don't you
a
dare tell
young
me-
man struck an elderly veteran who could barely stand. Then smirked as the old man trembled. What he didn't notice were the bikers outside. The Hells Angels already rising from their seats, they followed him home. Before we start the story, tell us wherever you're watching from. Tell us in the comments what touched you most in this story. The morning rush at Redding Roasters Café in Redding, California. Was calm, just the hiss of espresso machines and quiet conversation. Colt Mercer Dalton had stopped in for black coffee after a long night ride. His Hells Angels vest drew the usual stares, but he didn't mind. Respect wasn't something he demanded, it was something earned. At the corner table sat an elderly veteran, Raymond Cole, a frail Marine with trembling hands and a cap that said Vietnam 1968. Colt had spoken to him once or twice. Always polite, always listening. Today, Raymond struggled to stand with his cane, tray shaking in his hand. That's when a tall man in a designer jacket bumped into him intentionally. The tray fell. Coffee splashing everywhere. Watch it, old man. The guy snapped. Raymond whispered an apology. The man slapped him hard across the face. The cafe went silent. Raymond staggered. Colt's chair scraped back slowly, every muscle in his body tightening. The man didn't stay to argue, he just smirked, tossed a few napkins on the floor, and walked out the door. That was his mistake. Colt was at Raymond's side instantly, steadying the older man by the elbow. You all right, sir? Raymond nodded shakily. Happens more than you'd think. That sentence hit Colt like a punch. No one who served deserved a life where disrespect became routine. The cafe manager rushed over, apologizing, offering free coffee. But Raymond waved it off. It's fine, he said softly. Let it be. Colt didn't. He stepped outside and spotted the man crossing the parking lot toward a silver luxury sedan. The guy glanced back, saw the biker coming, and snorted, "What? You want some too?" Colt didn't answer. Instead, he pulled out his phone and texted one message to the Medford Redding Hells Angels thread. Disrespect to a vet, follow him within minutes. Bikes began rolling in from the next block, quiet as shadows. The man didn't notice a single one. He peeled out of the lot, tires screeching. Colt mounted his Harley. Raymond appeared at the doorway, shaking his head. Son, let it go. Colt put on his helmet with respect. Sir, not today. The Harley roared to life. Justice had a sound. Colt followed the sedan through downtown Redding, keeping two cars behind. The arrogant driver blasted music, weaving through traffic like the world belonged to him. One by one, more angels joined the route. Bear, Lawson, Ridge, Calhoun, ever swarming, never threatening, just tracking from distance. By the time the man reached his neighborhood, a quiet street lined with pine trees, over 60 Harleys rolled through like a slow-moving storm. The man didn't notice at first. He pulled into his driveway, checking his hair in the mirror. Then he stepped out and froze. 60 engines idled, filling the air with a low, steady rumble. Colt cut his engine and walked toward him. What do you want? The man spat, backing up a step. Colt didn't raise his voice. You slapped a veteran. The man scoffed. He got in my way. Old people shouldn't be out if they can't walk. Several bikers growled under their breath. Colt stared at him, cold and unwavering. You owe him an apology. The man laughed. Actually, laughed until he saw the look in Colt's eyes. The laughter died instantly. Fear crept into the man's expression, but arrogance fought its way back. I'm not apologizing to anyone, he said, jabbing a finger at Colt's vest, especially not because some biker gang tells me to. Bear stepped forward, towering a full head over him. Careful with your words, boy. The man swallowed. Colt held up a hand, stopping his brothers. Nobody's here to hurt you, Colt said evenly, but you showed a level of disrespect no decent man would ignore. The man crossed his arms. What do you care? He's not your family. Colt stepped closer. Any veteran who kept this country standing is family. The man's eyes flicked nervously between the bikers and his front door. If you think I'm scared of you, we're not here for your fear, Colt cut in. We're here for your decency. A tense silence stretched. Finally, the man exhaled. So, what do you want me to do? Colt pointed back toward town. Come with us, look him in the eye, and make it right. The man hesitated. 60 bikers stared back. He nodded. The convoy rode slowly back into Redding. Colt up front, The man's sedan, sandwiched between a wall of Harley's people on the sidewalks, stopped to stare, whispering, filming as 60 Hells Angels escorted one panicked driver through the city like an unwilling VIP. They stopped in front of the cafe where Raymond sat with a fresh cup of coffee when he saw the bikes. His eyes widened with confusion and a hint of fear. Colt approached him gently. "Mr. Cole, may we speak with you?" Raymond looked up, voice trembling. "Did something happen?" Colt gestured toward the man, who now stood stiffly beside his car. Face pale, "He has something to say." The man swallowed hard. "Sir, I shouldn't have. I was wrong. I lost my temper." Raymond blinked slowly. "It's all right, I'm used to it." Colt shook his head. "You shouldn't be." Raymond hesitated, then nodded toward a chair. "Sit, let's talk." The man looked shocked but obeyed for the first time. He listened. The cafe was silent, watching a moment no one expected. A veteran offering grace, and a man learning humility. The hardwareman's hands shook slightly as he lifted his coffee, the steam curling upward like a quiet reminder of all the mornings he'd survived alone. The man, his name was Growth Evan Marsh, sat across from him. Posture, rigid, eyes flicking nervously between Raymond and the 60 bikers forming a silent wall outside the cafe. Colt stood nearby, arms folded, but expression calm. Raymond spoke first. "Son, I don't know what made you so angry today, but I'll tell you something. Life gets harder when you forget other people's battles." Evan swallowed. I thought you were being slow on purpose." Raymond nodded slowly. "Every step I take hurts, but I take it anyway." Colt leaned forward. "Evan, you want to fix today? Do better going forward." Evan's shoulders slumped under the weight of his own choices. I want to try." Raymond extended a hand, old and trembling, but steady in purpose. "Then start here." Evan looked at it, hesitating, then shook it outside. The bikers watched the handshake through the cafe windows. No applause, no cheers, just respect, a silent acknowledgement that something important had shifted after the conversation. Raymond insisted on standing, lifting his cane with quiet dignity. "Colt," he said, "I need a ride home." Colt stepped beside him without hesitation. "It'd be an honor." Sir Evan watched them leave, guilt etched into every line of his face. Bear walked up to him, voice low but controlled. "You get a second chance today, don't waste it." Evan nodded, watching the line of Harleys form up behind Colt. Once Raymond was seated safely in a sidecar one of the brothers had brought, Colt signaled. The formation engines rumbled in unison, shaking the pavement. Evan stepped back, humbled, realizing this wasn't intimidation, it was solidarity. The convoy rolled out from the cafe, turning onto Pine Street toward Raymond's neighborhood residence. Peeked out windows as 60 patched riders escorted a veteran home like he was a decorated general returning from battle. Raymond watched the city pass by, eyes glassy. "Never thought I'd see a day like this," he murmured. Colt smiled beneath his helmet. "You deserve every second of it." The procession moved slowly, deliberately, giving a forgotten man the kind of recognition he'd earned decades ago, never received. Drummond lived in a modest one-story house on a quiet residential street. The convoy parked along the block in a respectful line, engines idling down to soft ticks. Neighbors spilled onto porches. Stunned at the sight, Colt helped Raymond out of the sidecar, steadying him by the arm. "Easy there," he said. Raymond nodded, breath trembling. "Haven't had an escort like this since '69. Colt smiled. "Different war, same respect." Raymond chuckled weakly. Bear and Lawson stepped forward with a small grocery box. "Staples, coffee, fresh bread." "House looked like you could use a little restock," Bear said. Raymond opened his mouth to protest, but Lawson held up a hand. "No arguments. You served, we serve you now." Raymond wiped at his eyes. "I don't know how to thank you, men." Colt shook his head. "You already did when you put on that uniform years ago." Evan, who had followed in his sedan, stood awkwardly at the curb. Raymond looked at him not with anger, but with a tired kind of forgiveness. "Take care of people, son," he said gently. "Start today." Evan nodded, ashamed but changed. Colt stepped onto Raymond's porch, scanning the small home. Clean but worn photos of young soldiers lined the wall inside. Memories preserved with careful hands. "You live alone?" Colt asked. Raymond nodded. "Wife passed 10 years ago, kids moved to other states, I get by." Colt frowned subtly. He'd seen too many veterans slip through society's cracks, like forgotten threads bare joined him inside. Fixing a crooked curtain rod without being asked. Lawson replaced a flickering light bulb. Ghosts swept the walkway. They weren't doing charity. They were restoring dignity. Raymond watched. Overwhelmed. You boys don't have to do all this, he said. Colt stood beside him. We're not doing it because we have to. We're doing it because someone should have done it long ago. Evan lingered at the edge of the property, unsure if he was welcome. Colt motioned him over. Come help. Evan stepped inside, humbled, holding a toolbox like it was foreign. Can I fix something? Yeah, Colt said. Start with that loose step. Evan knelt, working carefully. It wasn't redemption yet, but it was the first step of something better. By late afternoon, Raymond's small house looked transformed. TD walkways, fresh groceries, fixed steps, working lights. The bikers gathered on the lawn. As Raymond stepped out with Colt, you men did more for me in one day than folks have done in 10 years. He said softly, you didn't have to show up. Colt shook his head. You showed up when this country needed you. We're just catching up. Evan approached timidly. Mr. Cole, I'm truly sorry. I can't erase what I did. But I'll do better. Raymond studied him for a long moment before offering a small nod. See that you do. The crowd was silent, the moment heavy with meaning. Finally, Colt turned to Raymond. Anything you need, rides, repairs, company, you call the club your family now. Raymond smiled, tears gathering. Thank you, boys, thank you. As the engines roared back to life, the neighborhood watched in awe. 60 Harleys rolled out slowly, respectfully, like an honor guard escorting their elder home. And as Colt rode at the front, he looked back once at the old man, saluting them from his porch. Some days, honor wasn't spoken, it was shown back at the cafe. The manager stood outside, waiting as the rumble of Harleys faded down the street. She clasped her hands together when Colt approached. Is Mr. Cole all right? Colt nodded. Better than this morning. She exhaled with visible relief. Good, he comes here every day, sweetest man. People don't realize how much he's been through. Colt leaned against a post. People see age, not the battles behind it. A couple of customers approached. Having witnessed everything earlier, one man said, I've never seen anyone stand up like that. Thank you. Colt shook his head. Don't thank me. Thank him for wearing that uniform. Word spread through reading like wildfire. A veteran, protected by bikers. A disrespectful man confronted. A neighborhood changed. Raymond became a quiet symbol in the town. Overnight, the cafe hung a handwritten sign. Veterans drink free always. That evening, Colt met the crew back at the clubhouse. Bear slapped the table. That old Marine's tougher than half this town. Colt smirked. He's earned the easy days now. The others nodded, knowing exactly what he meant. Protecting him wasn't a chore, it was an honor. 2 days later, Colt returned to check on Raymond. The old Marine sat in a rocking chair on his porch, sunshine warming his lined face. Back again? Raymond asked with a grin. Told you we'd check in, Colt said. Raymond motioned to the seat beside him. Sit, keep an old man company. Colt sat, taking in the quiet street for once. It felt peaceful, not tense, not watchful. Raymond sipped sweet tea. Your boys fixed everything, even the porch light that's been dead for years. Colt shrugged. We do better work when someone deserves it. Raymond's voice softened. You remind me of some of the men I served, with loyalty in your bones. Colt looked at him. I didn't serve, but I understand brotherhood. Raymond nodded. Different uniforms, same heart. Just then, Evan Marsh walked slowly down the sidewalk, carrying a small box. He paused at the gate. Mr. Cole, I brought you something. Raymond raised an eyebrow. Well, come on up. Evan stepped onto the porch, shame still lingering in his posture, but determination pushing him forward. Evan handed Raymond the box. Inside was a brand new Marine Corps cap, crisp and respectfully folded. I looked up what unit you served in. Evan said, got the right emblem. I thought maybe you'd like a new one. Raymond's throat tightened. My old one's worn thin. Because you earned it, Evan replied, but this one's for the days ahead. Colt watched the exchange, carefully gauging sincerity. It was there, honest. Raymond put the cap on, adjusting it slowly. Fits perfect, he said softly. Evan exhaled shakily. I can't undo what I did, but I want to be someone better. Raymond leaned back. Then keep showing up. Respect doesn't come from one apology, it comes from 100 better choices. Evan nodded. I will. Colt stood. You need anything, Mr. Cole? Raymond tapped the side of his rocking chair. Just company. Evan surprised both men. I could come by if you'd let me. Raymond studied him for a long beat, then smiled. Doors open. Colt looked between them, one man haunted by regret, another shaped by service, and realized something rare was happening. Redemption, quietly earned over the next week. The routine became simple and steady. Evan repaired Raymond's fence. Raymond taught him how to tie military knots. The bikers stopped by every couple of days just to talk, laugh, or drop off groceries. The neighborhood, once indifferent, now waved at Raymond. Instead of looking past him, children rode their bikes slower when passing his home, curious about the Harleys sometimes parked outside. One afternoon, Colt found Raymond and Evan sitting at the porch table, sorting old photos. Raymond looked up, showing him who I used to be. He said, "You still are." Colt answered. Raymond chuckled, "Maybe just older now." Evan leaned back. "He told me stories I never learned in school." Raymond raised a finger. "History isn't in the books, it's in the men who lived it." Colt sat on the step, "And in how we treat them after." A warm breeze passed. Raymond closed his eyes for a moment. "Peaceful boys," he said quietly. "You've given me something I didn't expect." "What's that?" Colt asked. "A reason to feel seen again." Colt nodded. "You earned more than that Friday." Raymond asked Colt for a ride to somewhere specific. "Take me to the Veterans Memorial on Hilltop Drive," he said when they arrived. Raymond stood between polished stone walls, engraved with names of the fallen. He touched each one delicately, lips moving in silent remembrance. Colt stood behind him, giving him space. After several quiet minutes, Raymond turned. "I used to come here alone, felt like nobody remembered us anymore." Colt stepped forward. "You're not alone now." Raymond nodded, eyes shining. "Because you boys showed up just then." The sound of engines drifted up the hill. Bear, Lawson, Ghost, and a dozen others parked beside them. No announcements, no orders. They came because Raymond mattered. The old Marine straightened his back and saluted them. The riders returned it silent. Powerful. Raymond's voice wavered. This is what brotherhood looks like." Colt placed a hand on his shoulder. "And you're part of ours now," Raymond whispered. "Thank you." But Colt knew the truth. They weren't honoring him out of kindness. They were honoring him because he deserved it. That night, as the crew gathered at the Reading clubhouse, Colt couldn't shake a feeling. Gratitude mixed with a quiet ache. He'd seen men like Raymond slip through the cracks too many times. Not this time. Bear tossed him a cold soda. "You did good today," he said. Colt shrugged. He deserved it. Just then, a phone buzzed. Raymond's name appeared on the screen. Colt answered immediately. "Son, I didn't mean to bother you," Raymond said, voice soft. "But the porch light's out again and I don't like the dark much anymore." Colt stood. "I'm on my way." Bear, hearing the conversation, grabbed his jacket. "No one rides alone." Minutes later, 3 Harleys rolled through Raymond's neighborhood. When Colt reached the porch, he saw Raymond, not afraid, but embarrassed. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called." Colt crouched with a warm smile. "You call any time, that's what family does." Raymond's shoulders loosened. "Family," he whispered. He hadn't said that word in years. Colt fixed the light. Ghost tightened the wiring. Bear swept the walkway. Small tasks, big meaning. Raymond watched, heart fuller than he could have explained.
The following morning, Colt found Raymond outside watering a small patch of flowers he'd planted long ago. Blooms barely hanging on. Thought these were done for. Raymond said. Colt knelt beside him. "They just needed attention." Raymond's eyes softened. "Like all of us, I guess." Evan walked up the sidewalk, hands stuffed in his pockets. "Nervous, but determined, Mr. Cole. I brought mulch and oat soil. Thought maybe we could revive the garden." Raymond looked surprised. Touched. "That'd be nice." As they worked, neighbors walked by, stopping to chat. One woman brought lemonade. A teenage boy helped shovel soil for the first time in years. Raymond's yard became a small hub of community. Evan worked quietly, sincerity in every movement. When Raymond paused to catch his breath, Evan stepped beside him. "I'll keep coming back, not because I'm trying to fix everything at once, but because you deserve better." Raymond patted his hand. "One day at a time, son." Colt, watching them, felt something shift. What began as an act of justice was becoming something deeper. Ripple spreading through the town. Later that week, Raymond surprised Colt with a request. "Would you boys join me at the cafe?" Colt nodded without hesitation. "We'd be honored." When they arrived, the cafe buzzed with whispers. Dozens of customers stood when Raymond entered, some clapping softly, some placing hands over hearts. The manager brought him a free breakfast. Setting it down with pride, Evan walked in moments later, not hiding, not shrinking, but stepping beside Raymond like a man trying to rebuild his own character from the ground up. Raymond lifted his coffee. "This is the first morning in years I feel seen." A few customers placed folded notes on his table, small testimonies of family members who had served. Colt leaned back, arms crossed, watching it all unfold. This wasn't about the slap anymore, it was about what followed, how a community had woken up to someone they had overlooked. Evan glanced at Colt. "Thanks for not destroying me that day." Colt smirked. "Didn't need to, life already handled that part." Evan nodded. "Fair." Raymond laughed softly. "Boys, I think today might be my favorite day in a long while." When evening settled, Colt walked Raymond home. The sky glowed orange, cicadas buzzing lightly in the trees. Evan followed behind, carrying a bag of fresh groceries. At the porch, Raymond paused before going inside. "Colt," he said quietly, "I need to tell you something." Colt stepped closer. "Anything I prayed for helped the night before all this happened. Didn't know what I needed, didn't know who would come, but then you stood up for me and 60 men followed." Colt felt his throat tighten. "You deserved someone to stand up." Raymond nodded. "Maybe, but I didn't expect it." Evan cleared his throat. "You deserve more than respect. You deserve company." Raymond chuckled. "House is full lately. Haven't had that in years." Colt placed a hand on his shoulder. "As long as we're breathing, you'll never sit alone again." Raymond blinked back tears and whispered, "Thank you, son." Colt nodded once. Protective Raymond stepped inside, turning on the porch light, the same one Colt had fixed shining warm across the yard like a beacon. A week later, the Hells Angels hosted a small gathering at the Medford Reading Clubhouse. Food, music, and community. Raymond arrived with Evan's help, walking slowly but proudly. When he stepped inside, every biker in the room rose to their feet. Bear raised a glass to Raymond. "Marine fighter, and one hell of a good man." The room filled with cheers. Raymond's voice shook as he responded, "I've lived a long time, but I've never felt this kind of family." Colt guided him to a seat of honor. "You're one of us now." Throughout the evening, Raymond laughed, shared stories, and held court like the respected elder he was. Evan stayed by his side, not out of obligation but genuine care. As the sun dipped behind the pines, Raymond pulled Colt aside. "You changed my life." Colt shook his head. "You changed ours." Outside, 60 Harleys gleamed beneath the twilight, not symbols of fear but of loyalty. Raymond looked at them, eyes glistening. "I'm not invisible anymore." Colt placed a steady hand on his back. "Never again." And for the first time in decades, Raymond felt truly, undeniably, home. Respect costs nothing, but its impact lasts a lifetime. If this story touched you, ride with us for more moments where courage meets compassion. Hit subscribe, tap like, and ring the bell. More powerful stories roll down this road every day.